Adipa shudum way, senyu weda, nirangwana, boy, Otobieu, Fata, and Krume, Otobieu, Bria, member Gromano, Sa station where I am into also for video tour. Let's say what Data Kennedy, Macram.
To live and not know what state of God you are, it's a disaster. To not know your purpose is a tragedy. It's a disaster. To live and not know what state of God you are, it's a disaster.
To live
to not know your purpose
and not know the state of God that you are is definitely a disaster. That is Pepper's song by Fafa. And the very moment you hear this tune, it means we're back. Yes, we're back. We're back on Mentoring Hour.
In this you build your soul
with Dr. Susan.
The difference in this you be the answer to the prayers of humanity.
And Samantha.
In this you build your soul. In this you be the difference.
While we're waiting for Marvin as well.
Be the answer to the prayers of humanity.
And today,
to live and not know what state of God you are. It's a disaster.
A very interesting topic is on the table.
To not know.
Are you making enough time for yourself?
Tragedy.
Very interesting topic indeed. One may say, during the time of COVID, we had enough time for ourselves. Oh well, we were watching a lot of Netflix, isn't it?
Symphony.
A lot of YouTube videos, isn't it?
Sunshine, rainfall.
A lot of sleeping, isn't it?
The wind blows.
What more time do we need for ourselves again?
Purpose.
Don't worry.
The world is waiting on you.
Dr. Susan is here.
Do you feel free?
Marvin is on the way. Samantha always smiling.
Waiting on you.
To throw more light on this topic.
Shine. Oh, shine.
So, without much ado, let's join our beautiful ladies this morning. Good morning, Dr. Susan. Good morning, Samantha.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
It's
a long time.
I know. Long is an understatement. And how is everyone doing? Dr. Susan, Samantha, how are you all doing?
We are okay.
We're fine.
Excellent.
Yes.
Excellent.
We're okay. Thank you.
A very interesting topic this morning, and I will begin with Dr. Susan to let us know what is the import of this topic. You know, we've had time for ourselves during the COVID times. Even now that we speak, some people are still working from home. They have extra time for themselves. So, what is the import of this topic? Are you making enough time for yourself? What is the import of that topic?
This is just thank you so much, and I'm really pleased to be back. It's one-to-one mentoring network here, and we, as usual, we talk about so many different topics that affect us as a community. The reason why I brought this topic up is, for me, time is a very valuable, I call it utility. You know, people think that it's only money that is utility, but it isn't. In terms of value, when you look at something that's valuable, yes, you have money, then you have time. Time, and there's a quote that says time is. You see, there's this notion of we have time. Must be yes, with the COVID era change, that you have not
Dr. Susan. Hello, Dr. Susan.
Have you lost me?
Yeah, we haven't lost you, but your line is a little bit skirmish today.
Okay.
Have you changed service providers lately?
Oh, maybe why don't we go to Samantha and come back to me?
Okay,
yes.
I'll come back.
Maybe you go to Samantha and come back.
Definitely. Hello, Samantha.
Hi. How are you?
I'm doing as beautiful as your smile. Mm-hmm.
Oh. You.
All right.
Yes.
Let's pick it up from.
Yes, good
to be back. Let's pick it up from where Dr. Susan left off, right? The import of this topic. We've had enough time for ourselves, especially in the last 2 years or so. But you say, are we still having enough time for ourselves? Tell us the import of this topic.
Well, I think you're quite right to start it from recent times where because of COVID, we suddenly found ourselves, everything had changed, and it did seem like, yes, in the beginning there was a lot of, for some people anyway, a lot of lying around and almost going slightly slower and not knowing what was going on. And then, of course, for many people, depending on what kind of job you did or you do, you found that actually the time was being used up even more because you were living and breathing your work. If you're working from home, then you haven't quite made that transition. Whereas before you would commute from home, go into work, do your work quite separately. So the time extended. And another thing as well, that I think with the amount of deaths and obviously sickness and the rest of it that came with COVID, on another level, you became more aware of, I would say, your mortality in a way. So time actually became something that has become more important than anything. I certainly know for me, I'm much more conscious of it. I'm much more aware of the fact that, you know what, you might find that you're not there. So you need to really use up your time and essentially usefully. So yeah, that's that. I think I would say I'm continuing on from Susan's conversation.
All right. So in the wake up of you being working from home, yourself being surrounded by work and what have you, you still should know that you should have time to look at certain things about yourself, isn't it?
Yeah.
Excellent. All right, now we have Marvin on the line now, so definitely the team is complete. Dr. Susan. Maybe Doctor is
I think she's rebooting.
Now let's welcome Marvin for now. Hello, Marvin.
Hi, good morning.
How are you?
Very well.
Excellent. A long time, isn't it?
Yeah, it's been a while.
Did you just visit your barber or something, or?
Oh no, I've been doing it at home myself, so I don't know how it looks.
I see. So you're going to continue doing it at home?
Yeah, I will. I think my barber called me and I told him I'm not coming back.
Interesting. How has it been during the lockdown?
Should I summarize it?
Mm-hmm.
It's been interesting. I think personally, it's been interesting. I've had to move jobs within lockdown. I've had to so from a career perspective, it's been interesting. Joining a new team virtually and working with people virtually for about 6 months. That's been interesting. New challenges. Personally, I think because there's been new challenges both in a career perspective and a personal level perspective is been a challenge. So has pushed me from my comfort zone personally and from a career perspective. So I think it has. I'll say it's been interesting and challenging. And is it a challenge that I'll do again? I think yes. I think it's pushed a lot of people from your comfort zones for you to look at things from a different perspective and then things you've never thought about.
I
And
see.
I'm doing things I don't do on a normal day. So yeah, it's been challenging in a positive way.
When you tell us you're doing things that you wouldn't do in a normal day, you have to tell us a little bit of those things. So,
Okay, so like for instance, I'm not good with audiobooks. I hardly do them, but I I had a chat with a friend who was a therapist, and she gave me some insights to one particular individual. So I literally last night I did an audiobook for 4 hours straight, and I wouldn't do that on a normal day. So that, and also the fact that I did that to give me a different angle, a different perspective to a challenge I'm facing. And that's something I wouldn't do on a regular day. You asked me about my haircut. I do it now myself, right? Then I'll ask my wife to do the shape of for me, and so that's something I wouldn't do on a normal day, right? And I'm comfortable doing it now. Moving forward, I don't think maybe in a year I might see my barber twice, but I'm not bothered to drive 30 miles to see my barber anymore. So those are things I won't do on a normal day.
wow, sounds very interesting. Now, your wife is even a barber too, right?
Yeah, she helps out.
And in the midst of all these things, would you say you were making enough time for yourself?
um, yes and no. Personally, I think with work, because it's been a new. If I think it was my previous job, I would say yes. So because I was in lockdown in my previous job, I was making a lot of time for myself and the family. It was part of the decision I took to not continue with my previous employers because it was a lot of traveling, from company to company. So I needed a bit of family time, and I appreciated that. Spend a lot of time with my little one. So that was fun. I have a routine with her now, which I didn't before. But when I joined my new employers, because it's a new team and you're getting used to a new role virtually, I've been overworking. So for the first time, I've taken a week off, right? So I wouldn't say I've been managing my time perfectly. I think there's room for improvement, but it's quite a challenge to not overwork yourself. I think that's the biggest thing I'm facing, overworking. And you can't stick to a 9 to 5 routine. As much as it can be said, I can't. I'm struggling to do that at the moment.
Thank you very much for that roundup. I'll come back to you. And I love
Sure.
your haircut too. I love it. I love it. Dr. Susan,
Can you hear me now?
yes, we can hear you, and
Okay.
we can see you beautifully as well.
Okay. So did I disappear as well? Did my video disappear?
Well, it was somewhere we weren't
A bit
seeing
fuzzy.
your beautiful face so
I-
well. So now it's good. It's good.
Thank you. Thank you. I
Well,
do apologize.
let's go on straight away. Now, you said, are we making enough time for ourselves? Now, if we make that enough time, what are we using that time for?
Exactly. So what I was trying to explain, trying to explain time as a utility. And what I mean by utility is that as we know that money is valuable, but time is also valuable. You see, because because money is so physical, people tend to look at it as, oh, this is just, as long as I am getting money for something, that then is a reflection that whatever it is valuable. But what people don't realize that time is, if whatever you do with your time can come back and bite you. So the reason for this topic, and it's very interesting hearing Marvin, because that is exactly what I was going to say. We should realize that the COVID pandemic has affected people in different ways. You have people like me that nothing really changed much. In fact, if anything at all, my work became more flexible in the sense that I still go and see people in the hospital. I never stopped face to face, apart from a brief 1 month or 2 months where everything went to telephone or video. But after the first COVID pandemic lockdown, I've virtually seen patients face to face. The only thing is that majority of my patients are now seen virtually instead of face to face. But does not change the fact that I still see patients face to face. That didn't change at all whether I had my vaccine or not, because I'm a doctor, so I have to go. We have people on the front line that were seeing patients, that were still going. So their time balance would be different. Their time balance possibly, apart from the stress of looking after very sick patients, wouldn't really change very much. So if I'm thinking about my time, I have to think about, okay, how has it changed? How, even if it's flexible, how has it changed? Do I really have additional time for myself to, for example, be creative, to make sure I don't have burnout with, all the things as a health professional that was going out to see patients or to the hospital, whereas everyone else was at home. You see, so that is that aspect of burnout for your audience who are hearing, who are frontline workers, whether they are in healthcare, social care, in fact, even in shops. All these people before the lockdown, and even with the lockdown off, what in terms of balancing their time is very important, and in terms of looking at reduction of burnout. Okay, now when you look at the majority of the population that actually, for example, someone like Marvin Sam, who were actually working, but working from home, okay? How about these people, which really is the majority of the population? Because you think, and this is your first question, that after all, we have quite a lot of time on our hands. Is it really? Because actually, employers are probably getting more out of people than before. And this is something, when I have my conversation with my youngest brother in San Francisco, he's a vice president of one of the top organizations in America. And he is telling me the same thing as Marvin is saying. And my husband, who is also in the same company as Marvin, he basically hasn't stopped. You see, so this is where time now becomes very intentional. You have to come to a point where you have to stand back out of yourself and look at, okay, what am I doing? What am I giving to my employer? And what am I giving to my family? What am I giving to leisure? What am I giving to myself? Because this is the first time over how many, 100 years or so, that we've entered into a big pandemic like that. So which means everything has to change. Health goals have to change. Fitness goals have to change. Work goals have to change. Career goals have to change. Creativity goals have to change. You see, as a doctor, like I said, I had to be intentional about what has changed. What has become more flexible? What has become more inflexible? And how do I look at myself and what I used to do and then plug into the current climate? So I know that I used to be somebody that exercised very actively, but the pandemic suddenly changed everything. So I had to step out of myself, because if you don't step out of yourself, you go according to what you used to do. Your brain will be in the same mode as it used to be pre-pandemic. And that is why people exercise stops. This is before, the gyms are starting to open now. So suddenly you are at home. So what do? Suddenly you have all this food available because you're always at home and working, so you're eating more. Or you are anxious, so you're watching TV more. You're taking more of the carbohydrates. So all these things, what I always say, that's why mindfulness is so important, because you have to be intentional about yourself as a human being. You have to look at yourself, your time as a utility, and then look at okay, what am I doing and what am I not doing and why? You see, until we come to a point where we realize that time is so precious, because what you do today will have a consequence of, of what you do in 5 years time, a year's time, 10 years time, 20 years time. And that is why I felt that this topic is so important for us to explore as a panel and with the audience, and just to also help people to start thinking. So here we have Marvin. Marvin has clearly realized it probably took some time because he did a huge transition. His company is one of the top companies in the world. I know that, you see. So he realized that, goodness, is the excitement of the new job. Now I have transitioned. So now Marvin has to step back and then ask himself, this time, this utility called time, like money, what am I doing with it? Okay, so this is me, and I'm done speaking.
Thank you. This is you indeed. It is you. I'll go back to you, Samantha. Samantha,
Yep.
time is a utility.
Yep.
And some people say time is a thief as well. If you are not careful, certain things that you plan to do, time will just take it away. It will just while away right in front of you, just like that. And I love what Dr. Susan said. You should be conscious, right? Conscious. Tell us a little bit more about that. How can one be so conscious about time? Because sometimes you ask some people, or some people may ask you, what is the time? And you tell them, this is the time. And they say, oh, that quick. It's like they don't know the time is going. How can we be so conscious? What are some of the techniques that we can use so that we can be very, very conscious of time and know exactly what we are doing as the clock also ticks along?
Okay, so I think I'm trying to think about that and the best way to do that. So there's a whole thing I think we tend to rush around a lot. There's a lot of rushing around. And the reason why we're rushing around is because we've got a lot on our plates. So we just, it's a bit action packed. So, you've got this to do, you've got that to do. And generally, and a lot of people, some people are quite specific about planning their time. And you do have to get into the habit of doing that. So I now have a new thing. In fact, I was just talking about that this morning, that because I started lecturing, and therefore it's something that I do. It's my time starts on the hour. It's something that it might be from 10 o'clock to 12 or 2 o'clock till 4. And the new thing now, my time now is a quarter of an hour before I start, because a quarter of an hour before, okay, gives me that space, that breathing space, so I'm not running. So everything I do, and even this morning, I knew that this starts at 9 o'clock, but by 8:45, I should be sitting here ready and set to and that, guess what does that do? It means that if there are any technical problems, I can deal with them. It means I'm not rushing, because that's the thing about time. When you feel it rushes. It can go away from you because you're constantly sort of chasing it. So I have a friend who said he has this technique of, he's never late for anything. And the reason why he's never late for anything is because it's as if he's staying ahead of himself. So that's a very good way of I would say, controlling time. Another thing I would say is, you've got to make the time. This is another new thing. When I told some of my friends that I'm on a show this morning called Are You Making Enough Time for Yourself? I haven't seen them, but the messages I got back were quite funny, which is like, you haven't got time. You haven't got time for anything. And that's very, very true. I am constantly busy. I actually, 2 days ago, worked through the night until 5 o'clock in the morning, because there are not enough hours in the day for me to do the stuff that I need to do. It's not something I do regularly at all, but it was a big lesson that unless you plan your time properly, unless you seriously prioritize, and that's something that when we're on, it's like we're on a treadmill. We keep going. And if you have to be intentional about it. So I'm thinking I'm developing some new things for myself, which is that I will say every week, I'm going to set aside a certain amount of time where it's just me. It's not with anybody. It's not me chatting on the phone to anyone. It's not me going for a walk with anyone, because you need to go out for things like walks. I will do these things by myself. So it becomes about me having some headspace to really clear down anything that's going on in your head. We naturally, if everybody is out of your house, your first instinct will be, oh, I must clean up, or I'm just going to sit down and watch a program, or I'm going to get on the phone and talk to some of my friend in Ghana or my family in Ghana, because you've got some time. You really have to taking the time for yourself. That I think is absolutely crucial. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid of the silence. It's that, because you need that solitary, you need that cut off time to just think about yourself. You need it.
I'm tempted to ask, are you by way also talking about meditation or what have you?
Well, yeah, no, you can meditate, but I mean, I again, you know me, I speak very honestly. I'm not the greatest when it comes to meditation, because there's way too much going on in my brain, right? I can't. There are meditation methods, and I try them, and they do work, but you've got to. It's training yourself. It's the silence. It's the silence that you need that, because you've taken that time out. It's not. I mean, I'm talking about. I mean, Marvin is talking about doing sort of audiobooks and things like that. They're all good. You need to read. It's just that quietness. The quietness is because it's stopping the noise, and the noise isn't necessarily physical noise. It's stuff going on around you. You know, if you're like me, I'm somebody who is constantly helping and constantly getting involved in other things. So, oh, of course I can do that. Of course I can help you with that. It's just allowing yourself to stop. And even the meditation, if the meditation is difficult because it's something else you have to think about trying to do, then don't do it. Just try and just be with you. I'm trying not to sound like Oprah Winfrey, but you know what I mean. Be with yourself.
With yourself. Okay. All right. Marvin.
Yes.
Be with yourself. Someone may ask, be with yourself as what? As what? Be with yourself as what? We touched on meditation, right? Do you meditate at all?
Personally, no, I don't.
You don't?
No, I don't.
Wow.
That's such a man answer, isn't it? It's just like, yeah, got it.
You know why I mean, Marvin is my guy. You know, Marvin calls me auntie, and I'm an adopted mom auntie. When we are working together in the mentoring, obviously it's different, but outside, Marvin and his wife call me auntie, and honestly, Marvin is Marvin. Tells it as it is. You know, it is what it is.
Yes, you've never done it before, or you've done it and you did not enjoy it.
No, I've done it before, but I don't do it.
You don't do
it. You're probably doing it, but you may not realize that you're doing it.
That's
yeah, but it's actually doing something and actually acknowledging that you're doing it gives it that structure, saying you're doing it. So someone is allocate maybe 10 minutes, 15 minutes every morning to meditate. Do I do that? No, I don't. So yeah. So if I do it once a while, I don't call that I'm doing it. I've not allocated any time for it to say I do this on a consistent basis. So no, I
don't. Well, I heard you talking about the fact that you have a child or children, right?
It's just the one.
Just only one, right? Well, that is only one. That is not so much, right? But if you have children, right? How would you be able to make enough time for yourself in the midst of children going all around you? How would you be able to make enough time for yourself?
Yeah, so it comes with planning, right? So as I said, this pandemic has given me a food for thought. I've transitioned. I'm growing every single day. I'm learning, right? Would I walk away with something from this discussion or panel? Yes, I will, right? So personally, I think it's planning, right? So and having a partner who also acknowledges all these things helps one plan properly and it enables me to have structure, right? So it's planning, then prioritizing, and then having a structure to it, right? So you can plan and prioritize, but if there's no structure, it makes it difficult to be consistent. And if you're not consistent, you can't deliver. So personally, that's how I tend to look at it. And am I a work in progress personally? Yes, I am. As I said, I'm always learning. So um, personally, we have one daughter, one child, who she's 2, and we're learning every day, right? So at the moment, she has a routine where she goes to nursery 9 to 5, right? So within that time, you have to be, if you want it. So when she comes back at 5:30, we have between 5:30 and 7:30 to play with her, give her food, then she goes to bed. So literally 2.5, you have 2 hours with her. And within that 2 hours, yes, she's gone to nursery, she's got a bit of knowledge impacted on her, but as a parent, what else are you doing within that 2 hours? Because within Monday to Friday, we have only 10 hours of her, right? And in order to make it useful, you have to plan, you have to prioritize in a structured way and be consistent with it. So if you want her to learn colors, maybe this week, it all comes with planning. So, okay, Monday we'll do this, Tuesday we'll do this. And if you don't plan it, it becomes an ad hoc process, right? And with kids learning, consistency and a structured way makes it easier to their benefit, right? So I've given you all this structure that I said there are 2 hours. How effective have I been within those 2 hours? I'm still a work in progress, right? I've planned it, but I haven't been consistent in delivering it, right? So personally, as I said, that 2 hour time slot that we have with Monday to Friday is very important, right? As I said, I have a partner who always gives me the nudge to say, "Are we doing it right?" So I have someone who puts me in check, and I put her in check as well. So it's that consistency, because if you want the foundation for that child to be great, you have to be able to integrate that structure into it personally. So yeah, that's how I'll phrase it.
Beautiful. And you don't get upset when you are prompted, hey, are you doing it right? You don't get upset, do you?
No, I think in that part personally, I've grown a lot. So that patience, I think I've learned a lot. Growing up personally, I try not to pass on things that I didn't enjoy with my little one, and I think maybe my wife will confirm, but we try to have that balance, where it's apparently it's good to give kids freedom to express themselves. If you and at an early stage you start shutting them down and not allowing them to express themselves, my understanding it hinders on their development. So it's allowing her to express it. She's been to Nigeria, she's had all this space for herself to express herself, and all of a sudden she comes home and she has to work in a very in a narrow area. So you might that the child might start experiencing that when I'm in school, I'm happy. When I come home, I don't enjoy it, and then you start seeing holdbacks, or you might not see the true reflection of the child's abilities at home. So I try to keep that in mind when I'm engaging with her.
Beautiful, beautiful. That was Marvin, anyway. Dr. Susan, I'll come back to you. Consistency, planning, and consistency. Some people may have the plan, but they will lack the consistency. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yes, thank you. Yes, so consistency is linked to discipline. Yeah, the only way you can be consistent, and listening to Sam is very clear. Sam and I are very, very, very similar. We do different things in terms of our career, but we have very similar interests in terms of our philanthropic interests. Okay, so like Sam, I do a lot of things. She does a lot of things. We're very creative people at the same time, and then we're always buzzing. We're very buzzy people. I always say that I'm sure I have a touch of ADHD because I really, really, you wouldn't see that physically in terms of me moving around. I'm actually quite chilled. But when it comes to my ideas, I have 1,001 ideas running through my brain. And the more busy I am, the more I get those ideas. Very, very in everything I do, in leadership, in my work. If you want the person that can innovate, it's me. Yeah. So this is why for me, I can't say this for someone else. You always have to know you. You always say when I'm coaching or I'm mentoring, one of my favorite things to say is that before you can move forward, before you can be successful, you need to know who you are. Who are you really? Who are you? What are your weaknesses? What are your strengths? These are questions that you have to ask yourself. You don't need to wait for an interview, you see? So, in order to be able to break these things into sections and be intentional, you have to be able to understand that you have to be disciplined. For example, you asked a very pertinent question about, do you meditate? People look at meditation in different ways. People call it mindfulness, people call it meditation, people call it prayer, people call it reflection. Every human being does these things. We just don't know we're doing it. And if you don't know you're doing it, you probably are not maybe being intentional enough. And intentionality develops as you become more and more aware of who you are. And I'm hearing Marvin. Marvin is saying very beautiful things about himself as a father. I'm so thrilled because as a mother and as a pediatrician, I'm realizing already the miracle of the development of a parent. And he nobody has given him a manual, but he's naturally looking at these things and realizing with his own experiences, being intentional about that. So Marvin has reflected and then putting that reflection in experience. Yeah. So definitely a discipline is so important. And I'll tell you, I'm a wife, I'm a mother, I'm a doctor, I'm an author. I'm kind of listing it in order of importance. Wife, mother, wife first. People will argue about that. Yeah. But whether we like it or not, at the moment, my children are in the midst of flying the nest. And it's only myself and my husband at home because they are both university. Okay. So wife, mother, doctor. I'm crazy about my patients. They are like a second family to me. They it's like, I consider them as an adopted family because they come and show me all sorts of things, their successes, their weaknesses, and they stay with me from the time they are very little to the time they are 18. So that's very important to me. Me as a coach, me as a mentor, an educator, an entrepreneur, and a student. And I'm not joking. And I will never preach what I don't practice. So people say to me, a week ago, I submitted my dissertation, not my dissertation, my assignment, my master's assignment. 48 hours later, I've written a book. And it's a picture book, 24 pages, that's all, for children on I Can't Sleep. So people listening, if you know of parents with young children who struggle to sleep, this is a very funny, humorous book on really providing insight into how children with special needs struggle with sleep. Okay. And somebody asked me this question. I thought it was a very pertinent question, very relevant. Susan, what time do you have? And then that was a very good question. I had to step back and reflect because here I am. I've just, I've just submitted my master's assignment, and there were six short questions and then one massive essay. Huge number of words, about 6,000 words. 6,000 words, okay? It's very research driven, very academic driven. Okay, so I made sure I looked at my diary in April. And Sam is very busy equally. So, and both of us are, because of what we do in terms of our philanthropy. So we bounce off each other. Sam knows when I've said to Sam. I also know when Sam says to me, we're clearing the diary. Yeah, there is no way. I mean, the number of invitations I get to go and speak I do get quite a lot of invitations, but unintentionally, I had to say to people, can you come back in May? Can you come back in June? Some of them, can you come back in July? That's one, because I knew I had to prioritize my time. Let's go to the writing. How did I do it? You see, writing is my creativity. Writing is what I use to relax. When I want to relax, there are so many different things that I do. I walk, I hike, I garden, I write poetry, and I write. Okay? So look at the way I did it. So I was that high. I had submitted nearly a 6,000 word assignment. How did I relax? How would I relax? This weather is so cold. You can't go out and garden. You can't go out and walk for hours. Okay. And I didn't just want to just sit in my and watch TV and watch TV and watch TV. So my creativity juices flowed. Within 48 hours, I'd written I Can't Sleep. That relaxed me and brought me right down because I know I'm intentional about me. I know what makes me relax. If I'm not writing the poetry or reading a book or even just chilling and watching a movie, sometimes this is when I write. Okay. And the other thing that I want to also introduce, if you are intentional about your time, you can monetize your time. You know, you can monetize your time. So you make the decision. Okay, I made a decision. Okay, that's my creativity. That's some of the gift God, God, and I thank God for that. A gift that He's given me as a writer, and I'm a published writer. So actually, so I decided that okay, I'll write. Then I monetized that time. It's my creativity. I enjoyed it. It reduced my stress. It brought me right down, but I've monetized it. You can get my book on Kindle. Okay, it's not much money, but it's still a utility. My time changed into utility. I'll give you another example. There are people who mentor and coach. Look, all of us do things, so many things that we do free. And I'm not suggesting for once that we should not be helpful and we should not support people. Okay, but sometimes you may have to think that, oh, actually, if you are somebody who naturally mentors people or you're naturally coaching people, why don't you do a short course on how to coach or mentor people well? Some of it, you can just do it like you've been doing, but actually you can coach somebody and that can be converted into utility because now people need that support. And there are people out there who will pay you for your extra time you don't have to coach, to mentoring is normally, you don't normally pay unless it's a program, but to coach, yeah, to advocate for somebody, to go with them somewhere, to give them, you can actually develop that skill. And that skill that you've been giving out free, some of it can be put into something that can be turned into utility. I'll give you the same example as my writing. My writing started like fun. My writing started like just like transferring my conversations in my consulting room into a book. Just because I realized I was telling stories and I used fiction and imagery and metaphors and parents and patients, children used to really understand it. So one day I just sat down and decided that, okay, why don't I just experiment with writing? So I call myself an accidental writer. I don't have big qualifications about creative writing. I discovered it and I learned as I went around. Of course, I've done courses now, but I learned. And then I just managed to get somebody who liked my work and published me. So I transferred that time and that creativity into a utility. My utility in time then developed into utility called money. If you don't understand the gifts that you have, that God has given you, by stepping out of yourself and looking at how important the time is, because it's only when you can sit back and reflect on who you are, the gift that you have, that you can even realize that some of that time you are wasting can be actually come back as a leisure, for you, for yourself, something valuable for you or yourself, or actually can be changed into a utility, to money utility. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Susan. I'll go to Samantha now. This is a question from Mr. Beduado, where do sleep come in with making time for ourselves?
Ah, okay. So, is he trying? Is he trying to ask that? Is he supposed to give up his time? Is he supposed to give up his sleep time to make? Yeah, it's a difficult one, and I guess I'll use myself as an example, and I'm sitting here still feeling the residual effects of having what I call pulling an all-nighter to get something done, and so I didn't sleep. I don't think we in any way suggesting that, because when you're sleeping, you're sleeping. Your sleep is an absolutely crucial. I mean, the doctors would tell you that it's a crucial part to what we do. You do. I mean, okay. There's probably, it's questionable about whether, I think, what is the official amount? Is it 8 hours of sleep a day? What is it, Doctor Susan? Is it 8?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
For adults, it can be less.
Yes.
For adults, it can be. If you
But
you'll be lucky if you get 8 hours. About between 7 to 8 hours. Yeah, 7 to 8 hours. Sometimes even 6, depending. But for adults, you don't need as much sleep as about 7 to 8 hours.
Yeah. So sleep. What I'm saying is sleep is crucial in terms of I'm building, your cells and your body, relaxes, and then there's a lot. So sleep is absolutely crucial. So people should not be cutting back on their sleep, and that's not making time for yourself, because sleep is crucial to your development, to you as a person. But you might find that actually you are somebody who over time needs less sleep, and I'm certainly from my own experience from women as they get older, going through menopause and all that kind of thing, sleep then becomes less of a thing. In fact, someone said to me the other day, sleep is overrated, because she's getting by on about 3 or 4 hours of sleep. But you need to make that time. I think we have to make sure that when we finish doing this process, that we've actually come at this in different ways. So the thing I'm saying is that make time to stop. And then but we're all saying it in different ways. So Susan is advocating that you're making time for yourself to do things that essentially bring out your creativity. So you're still, it's quite holistic. You're doing this, it's because it's about you. You're doing it and you're pushing it out. I'm on the other side. I still do that, but what I'm saying, and this is something I feel like I need to do, is not just to do so much, but actually to allow myself the time to say talk essentially. And that's another thing. I talk to myself a lot. Okay, and people might say that's quite crazy, but it's quite a good thing, because if you talk to yourself, it gives you a chance to reassess. It gives you a chance to essentially recenter yourself, because sometimes we go off depending on what's going on in our lives, and we have very, very busy lives. And even me, after Marvin started talking, it occurred to me that I'm coming at this discussion from the point of view of someone who's got older children, and who does a desk job and all that kind of thing. When you've got little children, where are you going to find the time for yourself? Even getting sleep is probably not even, particularly people who've got young babies. But I think what we're trying to say here is, if you take yourself as a unit, because I remember when my children were younger, I felt like I had disappeared from the whole picture. It was more about everybody else and not me. Okay, so I think if you tell yourself, you speak to your partner, like Marvin is saying, his wife they're both very hands-on. So you can say to each other, you're looking after, our daughter this afternoon because I'm taking a bit of time out to do X, because, to do something else. And then you do it. But it's not one way. It's also you do it for them as well. So you tell your wife, I'm taking care of the children, you go off and have some time to yourself. So it's not, and I'm not talking about giving each other, it's not about permission, okay, because nobody needs permission to do anything, but you essentially making these specific, because it's intentional, make the time and say, I want you to go off and do this because I think it will be very good for you. And so if it generally means that you just go off on your own to do something that you like doing, or a new hobby, or but it's just giving your brain that time to stop. I'm really talking about this from my own experience. I can't tell you enough. I don't do enough stopping. And when I do it, I can see the benefit hugely, because by the time I've stopped, I become even more creative, because it gives me time to reassign myself. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Marvin.
Yeah.
Someone may say all that we've said is an ideal situation, right? We all want to have it so beautiful as we've expressed it now. Now, what are some of the challenges as we move from reality to the ideal when it comes to making time for ourselves?
Okay. So yeah, it's got its challenges, like you said, and it's very difficult. I won't lie. But then it's being able to step back, right, and just look at the bigger picture and seeing how it's impacting you. If it's impacting you in a negative way, and you have the courage to step back, it really helps, right? So personally, I felt like I was getting burned out, and on a normal day, I work through it, right? But then I was experiencing things I haven't experienced before, right? And having the courage to ask for help or support or someone's opinion in it, right? So I was getting burned out. I wasn't even able, even when I stepped back from something, I was still not getting a better angle to it, right? So then my wife's like, "Oh, just take time off," right? And I was like, okay, how long? She said a week. I was like, "Ah, I just started this job a week for." And it's not like the job I'm doing, you're not allowed to take time off. You're allowed to, right? But it's I'm used to I'm used to being pushed to take holidays. So that's the pattern I find myself in. But when she said that, I was like, okay, fine, we'll do it. I asked her when she said next 2 weeks. I was like, but that's so close. I've got stuff to do, right? And it's can those things can they not wait? Of course they can wait, right? Anything can wait, right? If you plan it properly, if you can do a handover, it's all about planning. So then I decided to say, fine, let's do this. So I booked the time in, and she actually kept asking, "Have you booked it?" I said, "Yes, I booked it." Right, and I was like, "Okay, so we're going to take a whole week and just do what?" It goes back to planning, right? So then I decided that we'll do something very different. I didn't tell her about it. Do something very different, something I've not even personally done before. So I planned with my little cousin from Oxford. Then we went to Cotswold, right? I've never been to Cotswold. We went to Cotswold. We did kayaking on a bank holiday. It was quiet. There was nobody there. Did something different, and I know she was shocked. Like, "Ah, where did this come from?" Because she knows I won't just go out and do kayaking in the cold and that kind of stuff, right? But then for me, it was refreshing. It was mentally refreshing for me because work just shut. The first time I've been able to shut my laptop down for 4 hours, for 4 days, and not look at anything work related. But I was pushed to start looking on Thursday and look at some of the emails, right? But I've achieved something because for 4 days I didn't look at work related stuff, and I went off on Easter Monday to do something different, and I've done a lot of different things within this 1 week that I've never done before, and I've had conversations that have pushed me out of my comfort zone, right? So looking at things from different angles, right? Making a lot, studying myself, looking how to improve, looking at the positive way to actually understand things. So um, if you're disciplined and if you have the confidence enough to step back and reflect is very important. And I'm a work in progress. This 1 week has worked for me, right? I've learned a lot within this 1 week. So I remember when Susan asked, "Do you want to do radio?" Because I knew I'd booked a time, I was like, "Yeah, this works perfectly fine for me as well." So it's it's growing, it's learning, having the right conversations within the right network and listening, right? So it's about listening and asking. If you're not sure, just ask the question from an experienced person or someone who you think can give you that input. So personally, that's the little I think I'll add into it. Because it's all about knowing when to step back and doing it right. Because you can, I could have stepped back and slept for the whole 1 week, right? And gone back to work, and I wouldn't have benefited anyway. But in this 1 week, I've learned how to approach issues. I've learned how to restructure myself. I've learned a lot within this 1 week that I have not done that in my whole life, right? So it's all about using that time. Could I have done more? Yes, I could have, right? So now I know next time I can do this. So it's all about planning and taking advantage of the network you have around you.
Taking advantage of the network around you. Dr. Susan,
Correct.
our time is almost up. I saw you nodding your head just like that. I think you were soaking in Marvin's message, isn't it?
Yes, and some as well. But beautiful thing about this program is that we learn. I'm a very great believer in lifelong learning, and that there is no way, there's no one who thinks that they've learned all there is to learn. And all what Marvin and Sam are saying, I'm also equally soaking it up. And I'm a very big reflector, so I'll be reflecting on it. Yeah. Your question, please.
A gentleman just told me that he changed the unit of time, right? That is to say, some people use hours to refer to time, some days, and what have you. He changed it to seconds, and it got him very.
No, Sam, it's fine.
Yeah, it got him very conscious as to the time that he's using. So instead of talking about it even in minutes, he was just measuring the time in seconds. So
Yeah.
it became so huge. Oh, am I wasting all this time? Am I using all this time profitably? So let's talk a little bit about the unit of time, the unit of measurement of time.
Okay.
Just as I've described this young man's case, would I know you deal with it with the mind as well. If we change the unit of measure of time, does it also help one way or the other so that we know exactly what we are doing with our time?
You see, the thing about time is that it's so personal, very, very personal. So if somebody was saying that this is one of those situations where, depending on what you're doing, depending on how you value your time, because honestly, there are some people who might generally have a bit more time to, they may have a bit more time to burn. So, for example, when you are retired, you've taken one big chunk of time out, okay? Depending, because a lot of time, work, going back to work, going to work day in and day out does take a lot. And that is why people who are, if you are 50, if you are in your 50s, you have to be planning for your retirement. And it's not just financial planning. You have to think, because, God willing, if health is okay, you have to think about after that sort of 60, between 60 to 67, because some people retire at 60. You can't retire from 60. Some people 55. Some people, majority of people around 67. What will you be doing with that time? And you can't just suddenly you arrive at retirement age, you get your retirement package, and you've got all this time. So the preparation for that utility, which is time, is important. So going back to your question, do we measure our time in seconds, minutes, or hours? We know that time is actually measured in seconds, minutes, or and hours. However, and even days and weeks. However, it's a personal thing, and it becomes personal depending on what you think that you're doing. Obviously, I wouldn't be breaking down my utility in, say, minutes. I'm very more comfortable in breaking down my utility in, say, hours. Is that, and it will never be day. If I say day, I can easily really waste time in the day. Whereas if I'm looking at it in hours, I think for me, it's more reasonable to look at that utility. Okay, in that hour, what am I doing, or what am I planning to do? Okay, one thing that I want to add here is that the importance of saying no. N-O, with a capital N and a capital O. Very, very, very important. And again, Sam and I bounce off. She's our chief operations officer. So next to me, she's the most important, one of the most important people in the organization in terms of the operational. Okay, so the CEO and the coup are very, very important in terms of what people want us to do, what we have to look at in terms of strategy. But we are also now getting better and better about what time do we have to do the meetings, even meet together. You see, and there are sometimes that some will say, Susan, this I can't do this, and I will say to her, I can't do this. We kind of work together like that. No is important, and I've learned this thing, so it's so important to me, such that when I'm even approaching my trustees or approaching the key members, the first thing I ask is anyone, some will bear me out, is anyone available? Because I understand how this is something that is voluntary. People are already doing something already, so I'm actually grateful that people have taken a bit of that precious utility called time to come and give back to the community. So as a CEO, when I'm asking people to, I ask them as, are you able to? I don't go saying that, can you do this? I ask them, are you able to? Because I know how precious their time is. And I respect that because I know how precious my time is. So I have also learned to say no. And it's so important. If you value your time and you value time as a utility, a very precious utility, then one of the things that you have to learn to do is to say no. Honestly, because people have this habit of coming and taking your time. So whether if it is that unnecessary telephone conversation that you have to learn to cut, there are some telephone conversations that are not very helpful because there are some people who don't really know what to use their time for. And so they will then equally come and waste your time. Okay, so there are telephone that if you know you don't have the time, you don't pick it, honestly. And then there are some also useful conversations and useful conversations that are good, but sometimes those conversations can go on longer than they should. So again, if you understand your time as a utility, you have to develop the skill of cutting certain conversations. Because there are some people who have 3 hours to kill easily. And I'm not judging those people because we're all at different levels in our lives. I'm not judging, but for me, my 3 hours has to be intentional. And because it's also about my home. I have a home. Clubhouse is one example. Yeah. You have people who will do certain things, will set up a clubhouse event at 10 p.m. and then ping me to come in. I'm like, no, at 10 p.m. It's my time with my family, with my husband. You get what I mean? At 9 p.m., this is when my phone is off. 8 p.m., my phone is off. I'm doing something else other than something that I have agreed with him because we're a team. It's not fair to encroach, my time, my partnership with other things. Do you understand? I'm not all about career and education and being an entrepreneur. And no, I'm not all about that. I'm also equally a family woman. I have family, I have my children. So they want to talk to me sometimes. We're all on a WhatsApp and they'll say, Mom, Dad, we're going to do a family WhatsApp at 8 p.m. I have to prioritize that time when my two now they are not teenagers again. One of them is going to be 20, the other is 22. These young adults, if they decide that I'm part of their time, you know how they are like at a certain, they do what they have to do. But if they actually are getting mature enough to say, Mom, can we have a group chat, family chat at 8 p.m.? Yes, of course, they know that 8 p.m. is family time. So I'm not going to be going on Clubhouse and talking about something or the other. I'm thinking, I don't judge. Maybe those people 10 p.m. their husband or their wife is working somewhere else, or maybe 10 p.m. is not their family time. But I'm not going to be jumping on Clubhouse at 10 p.m. and talking about something or the other. I'd rather use my time to watch TV or do something. You get what I mean? But that is me. So my time and the way I measure my time is in hours, seconds. Again, that particular gentleman who's asking this question, they may clock on seconds, and that's fine, as long as it doesn't become obsessive. You see, it doesn't become obsessive because we should remember that we also need relaxation, and at the same time, sometimes some of that time will be wasted. We are human. You may want to start work at 4 p.m. or do something 4 p.m. and then maybe you do it 4:35 p.m. You don't beat yourself. So what? Maybe it didn't happen, but look, next time it will happen. We don't need to beat ourselves also all the time. We need to be relaxed. We need to be balanced also. But I won't judge him if he says that he measures his utility in seconds. All what I can say is kudos to him if it works for him. Thank you. I'm done speaking.
Thank you very much, Dr. Susan. I saw Samantha making time to drink water. I think it's also equally important. Yeah, you have to make time to drink water. So just as a roundup, Samantha, if some people need support, guidance, help in knowing how to plan their time, can they call on one-to-one mentoring network?
Oh yes, of course. I mean, we are here. What we do is we mentor, generally, and there's a fair number of people on our network as well who are coaches. So yeah, I mean, why not? But I think what we try to do is, as you know, our main thing is helping the people in our community. So if there's anyone out there who is kind of slightly stuck around that, and I think what we might do is maybe put some of these things, write them down as some kind of a blog. I think, Susan, it might be an idea to actually take this bits of what we have just talked about, because all three of us have come at this from such different, not hugely different angles, but just different ways, because it all depends on the individual and also what stage of life that you're at. One thing I meant to also add is and you saw me nodding a lot when Susan said just say no. It was because I did a bit of research, because you have to when you're coming on your show, because I don't know what you're going to ask, Papa Smiley, so I have to be prepared. No point turning up without a clue.
That's right.
But one of the things that I had written down was just say no with an exclamation mark next to it. And I've written, cut out activities that drain your energy and your time, because you will know those things. You will know what they are. If you're being very honest with yourself, you know it. It's how you feel when you've spent an hour and a half chatting on lying there and chatting about inanely about anything. It could be that's fine, and that's what you want to do, because I do that a lot. But I think a lot of my friends will know that I tend to multitask. So when I'm on the phone, I tend to be doing stuff, and not because I'm not giving the person 100%, but I might need to be cooking. So cooking is a good time. So the phone is in my ear, and then I kind of talk away. The other thing is our telephone. These things, they're lethal. I'm not kidding you. They are absolutely lethal. So I use the facility. I don't know, I'm sure most phones will have it. There's a do not disturb facility, which I discovered when I started working. Do not disturb. And what the do not disturb does is that the phone might ring, except you won't hear it. Or somebody will send a WhatsApp, you won't see it. It will automatically bounce it off. And then, it just means that it's taken it off your offline, and you can time it. So sometimes during the week, for example, mine sits from 9 o'clock till 5, where I've said, do not disturb. If I need to speak to someone, it means I make that choice to go and speak to someone. But putting your do not disturb on every now and again and giving yourself the social media break, because here we are. I know I'm on the facility and I'm using it at the moment, but that's another thing that just gives you the opportunity to rejuvenate. I can see you're smiling away, which means that you're either not agreeing with me or you're getting ready.
The do not disturb. I know now that you've made mention of it, some men will be using it for their extracurricular activities. You know that.
Oh no. But do not disturb. It's been invaluable, because it and what happens is that because I put it on a timer, I sometimes forget to take it off, and then somebody will finally get a hold of me and say, well, I've been trying to get a hold of you. My do not disturb, I should have taken it off already, because you need to go on again. That's being intentional, because you have to go on and take it off. So that's giving you the time, that's giving you that space. Yeah. Okay. That's a small trick.
Thank you very much, Samantha. Some men especially the married men, now they will be using the do not disturb when they are with the second halves, right? Uh-huh.
You are just. I just don't. You're making. I'm now going into cheese. Open some form.
Marvin, but before I take the final words from Marvin, Dr. Susan, someone says prepare one poem for us, okay, for the weekend. So some of the poems that you've written, just pull one for us so that in your final words you just give us one poem to go with it. So Marvin, just your final words, and in your final words, just let us know how we'll be able to get in touch with One-to-One Mentoring Network. I know you are in charge of the social media and what have you. Just a little bit about that, and then Dr. Susan will round up for us.
Sure. Thank you. Yeah. So you can reach us on our website on the One-to-One mention website.com group. You can reach us on Twitter. So on Twitter, you can reach us out there, and Instagram. So if you're not sure, you come to our website, you scroll down, you can see all the links that can take you to all the various platforms, be it Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. And Dr. Susan does carry out some shows on Clubhouse as well. So if you engage on our Twitter feed, you get all those updates as well. So if you're not sure, just go to the website and just scroll down. When you scroll down, we have all our media links there, and you can click on it, and it will direct you to our various platforms.
Thank you very much for that. Thank you, Dr. Susan. I think you are on mute.
I'm bringing a poem that I think I wrote this for my mom. Let me bring it up. Yeah, if I can find it.
Well, as you try to find it, this discussion on time just reminded me of a story where the rabbit and the tortoise were involved in a race, and rabbit thought he's a fast runner, so as he took the lead, halfway into the journey, he said, okay, I have time, so let me just relax a little bit. And as he sat relaxing, tortoise was just taking it slowly. Tortoise got to where the rabbit was sleeping. Oh, he just left the rabbit there and carried on. And when rabbit woke up, tortoise had already crossed the finish line. So sometimes we may think we have time for ourselves, and then we just relax, and then it happens a lot back in time when I was in school, when during the semester I decided not to do my revision. I just pile it all up, and then during the end of semester exams I just want to put everything all together and then learn. It's more to do with you not eating in the morning, not eating in the afternoon, and then what? Trying to add your breakfast, your lunch, and your supper together, and then eat it all together. It's going to be a tough one, unless you are a Muslim doing Ramadan. Anyway, Doc, your poem, please. Your poem.
Okay, so I'll give a little bit of a background to this poem. This is the poem that has actually been entered into a poetry competition, and it's spoken word poetry. And this is inspired by a newspaper print, very old newspaper print that was discovered by my uncle. My uncle's children. My uncle died, and so my cousins were looking through his things, and they saw this newspaper print of my mom and dad. They had just arrived from England when they had gone to study, and just arrived on the ship. Those days you come with a ship, and my mom is pregnant, okay, and that pregnancy is me. And so I'm now looking at that picture of my life, and I looked at it. Was so surreal. So this was almost like it's an ode. It's a bit like an ode to my mom, and I'm using this to honor her. And I actually put this changed it a little bit for her as a birthday poem for her, also dedicated to my uncle because he's the one that made this possible. Okay, so it's titled An Old Newspaper Print Memory. Nesting, so it's a poem of me as a baby in her womb, just to make it very clear.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Nestling in a warm fluid of love with a heartbeat so strong, it lulls me to sleep. I feel heat and recoil at once further into my warm fluid chamber, my soul, my God, to keep. I taste the food she eats, the drink she drinks, and wonder how she knows what makes me tick. I hear every night the music she plays, muffled laughter, voices, dances, and jumps that makes me kick. On a warm summer's day, I hear the long blast of a horn, quarrelsome seagulls, distant chimes, and a sense, a pulling away from a cherished island. Mama, though, is happy about something. She keeps bringing up fluid, making me squirm and twist in my warm and comfy home, filled with love so strong it blinds. I sense sudden heat, temperature change. But wait a minute, so much laughter, so much love. And then all this sudden rush of heady endorphins through the cord that binds. I wonder where Mama is right now. The food she eats, movements she makes, catapulting me into dreamless sleeps. Fast forward 50 plus 3 years or more. I see a tattered photo of her, a newspaper print, brown and yellow with age, hid in a dark corner for years and years and smells like ancient sage. There she is, my mama dearest, with a bump that is me, stepped out off a ship sailed for weeks on deep blue sea. Mama may be in her 20s or maybe more and beautiful as I imagined her to be, with almondy brown eyes, velvety smooth skin, medium dark hair tied back with something that spells P. I see my mama in this old and tattered newspaper print on that day, 50 plus 3 years or more ago, and the feelings that I felt, the pictures in my developing brain of firing synaptic neurons, a tiny baby growing in mama's womb, exactly how I imagined her to be. She has traveled from England with dad to a land they used to call Gold Coast, Hope and Pride. Daddy standing proudly by her side. Mama is surrounded by family and warmth to cries of Akwabo. This means in Ghanaian, welcome, welcome. Daddy standing proudly by her side. I can now see 50 plus 3 years or more what was on the outside through a tattered newspaper print, a photo faded yellow with age and smelling like ancient sage, a precious glimpse of me in mama's womb, stepped off a big ship christened Rift, a beautiful treasure so hard to find. No ultrasound photos in those days, so please be kind. I am now back in this beautiful green island called England, where my life literally began, 25 years plus or more to date. The people, accents, food, smells, the music of the 60s that makes me cry and brings up memories of mom and dad and still do not know why. Like Mama, I have grown to love this island. Otherwise, why does my heart jump when the plane emerges from the clouds and see the land spread out right in front of my eyes? I know that Mama dear is proud of that little bump I have grown to be in this England, a frontline health worker, just like Mama was, serving in one of the greatest institutions in the world. I am now 50 plus 3 years and more to date, and no Mama would definitely agree. Thank you.
Ah.
Oh my
Thanks,
goodness! I'm sorry, but I can't let as to this one. I can't let you have the first word on this one, Papa Smiley. That was absolutely brilliant. It is just
Thank you.
brilliant, and I could. You know what? I was listening to this and I was feeling the whole thing. I was feeling it. What it is, it's us. You know what? Look, immigrants, and we have parents. Susan and I are a similar age, at 50 something plus, and and therefore we this thing about. And Susan showed me that photograph, so I know it. I'm so excited for you. I hope you win that is just totally brilliant.
Yeah, I hope so. I hope at least it is selected. My mom loved it so much because her version is slightly different, slightly different, and she loved it. She loved it. She loved it. Honestly, when I started writing it and when I narrated it, it took me some time before I could, because anytime I started doing it, I would start crying. When because it's just my mom, I'm so close to her, and seeing me and looking at me from, it's almost like the future, isn't it? I'm looking at the past, and the future is looking at the past, and I just thought I'm going to put this poetry together, and I've narrated it.
Brilliant.
Forums.
Really good. And I think I like the fact that you used your medical, because obviously your medical, we all know, because when as a woman, when you're pregnant with a child, they always say, talk to your bump, because your baby can hear your voice, your baby can hear everything.
Exactly.
And so and the foods that you eat, they'll tell you if you eat spicy foods, it's going to affect your body.
Yeah.
You put all of that sense into that poem. Fantastic. Papa Smiley, I'm taking the words out of your mouth.
Marvin, would you want to say something a little bit about it?
No, it was great. I used to listen to poetry for some years back, and listening to this just got me back. Now it's a really beautiful one. I've never had her read one before, and actually I know her mum. I've met her mum before, so just putting the two bits together. How she now is great. Now it's brilliant. I hope it goes places.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
And interestingly, I think it's Mother's Day in Ghana tomorrow, isn't it?
It is.
So
it is.
It
dedicated to all moms. Actually, this is dedicated to all mothers. We were babies, we were fetuses, and now we are moms. Yeah. So it's dedicated to all moms.
See, this is one of the reasons why I think if God were to have us, God, we could classify God in a sex. I would say God is more of a woman than a man. Yes, God is more of a woman than a man. Thank you very much for your time.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
You made time for us. Thank you very much, and we come back in next 2 weeks, right?
Sure.
Yes. With
Enjoy
diabetes.
your and bye bye.
Yeah. Same to you. Bye bye. Bye.
To live and not know what state of God you are, it's a disaster. To not know your purpose is a tragedy, it's a disaster. To live and not know what state of God you are, it's a disaster. To not know your purpose is a tragedy, it's a disaster. You may tomorrow be gone, tomorrow may never come. Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up to purpose for living now. That in this you will build your soul, in this you will be the difference, in this you will be the answer to the prayers of humanity. In this you will build your soul, in this you will be the difference, in this you will be the answer to the prayers of humanity. To live and not know what state of God you are, it's a disaster. To not know your purpose is a tragedy, it's a disaster. Sunshine, rainfall, half spins, the wind blows, harmony, symphony, purpose. Sunshine, rainfall, half spins, the wind blows, harmony, symphony, purpose. a star. Oh, shine so bright. Yeah. Ooh, ooh, yeah. You make tomorrow be gone.
We are radio, and this is Aqua Radio.
Wake up to purposeful living now. And this you will build your soul. And this you will be the difference. And this you will be the answer to the prayers of humanity. And this you will build your soul. And this you will be the difference. And this you will be the answer to the prayers of humanity. To live and not know what state of God you are, it's a disaster.